Okay. Good day to you all, and welcome to another session of the Africa Computational Linguistics Summer School. It is a unique opportunity to explore the real-world value of linguists beyond the classroom. Today, I'm honored to introduce Derry Moore, the Director of Linguistics at Decodis, where he leads a team focused on extracting meaningful insights from human speech through acoustic analysis, speech analytics, and the study of ex- emotional expression in language. As a linguist lead in industry, Derry's work bridges the gap between linguistic theory and business intelligence, demonstrating how deep linguistic understanding can power real-world applications, from social research to customer experience and product development. Today's session, titled Sample of Linguistics Skilled for Industrial Application, a case of linguists at Decodis, will showcase how computational and linguistic expertise can directly inform and transform work in tech research and industry. Please join me all in giving a warm welcome uh, to Derry Moore. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Saad, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, Derry, for coming around. We apologize for the change in schedule. So we're going to be keeping this particular session really simple and conversational, no slides. So it's going to give us like a dry run of what his jobs looks like. So I am a linguist, I'm this, I'm that, and this is what I do in my position. These are the kind of tasks I do. And then we ask him questions to channel the discussion. If you have any, I've seen a question in the chat, I would throw that at him, but I wanted to give us an overview of the kind of task he's doing as a linguist in the industry. And if at all there is any linguistic skills from whatsoever in particular course, is it Chomsky grammar, is it whatever it is that is using in the position as a linguist leader, they call this. Thank you so very much, Derry. We await your response.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the warm welcome and thank you for that introduction. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I'll start off with sorry, I wanted to approach this a bit as Samuel was saying, a bit conversational, informal. It tends to be how I like to operate. So um happy to answer any questions that come up. And if you want to interrupt me or anything, please do so. So I'll give you a little bit of my background, so you understand sort of my context and then how I'm using that context in the industry. So I am a sociolinguist by training, um, though I'll put some caveats around that, because sociolinguistics is itself a pretty broad field, um, and where that training comes from varies from place to place. So my dissertation and my academic work was done at the University of Buffalo, which is a very strong has a strong functionalist linguistic background, so non-Chomskyan. Um, and a lot of the instruction there um, is situated in this, what does the language accomplish? And so we um, view linguistic phenomenon through that lens of saying what does it do in this context? What's its purpose? How does it function? And using that to as the primary lens. And so I bring that into my sociolinguistics. So it's a lot of my linguistic work was on identity and identity construction, um, sort of a third wave-ish, if you know, Penny Eckert's work uh, on how people use language to present and to construct and present an identity of themselves. So in that scope, my dissertation work was on how people use local language in a small local context to construct an identity of rurality, so like countryness versus cityness, and how those that difference of countryness and cityness gets reconfigured and reoriented at a small local space, so inside a town and the immediate surrounding area. So my interest has always been in that, like, how do we understand the way somebody positions themselves from the way that they speak? My dissertation work and my current industry work coincided for the last 3 years. And out of my industry work, I pulled out an extra chapter into my dissertation and used that as part of my dissertation work, which was to take emotion as and looking at the acoustic signals that correlate with emotion as a way to understand how people align themselves to or align themselves away from certain ideas, notions, perspectives. And use that to sort of build the orientation of an understanding of the orientation of people, and then looked at their acoustic like vowel spaces and things like that. Pretty standard variationist sociolinguistic work. So that's sort of my academic background in a very quick nutshell. And then I have used a lot of that work in my industry work as well, both in this feedback between the emotion analysis, but then also fundamentally, like underpinning all of my work is trying to understand how people are thinking about what they're talking about. So to situate that, let me give you some context on what Decodis is, the company that I work for, and what we do, and then my role in that. So Decodis is a research company. We have largely situated ourselves in impact measurement, which means we're looking at how different programs, whether that's nonprofits or governments, how those programs are affecting people on the ground. And our goal is to analyze that from the perspective of the people most impacted by the program, so from the people on the ground. And we do this by creating surveys, phone surveys, and calling people and asking them to respond to these surveys. We don't cold call. People are recruited and then they opt in. But then we ask these, we have these surveys where we ask open-ended questions. And then people respond and talk. And they talk for a while, and we use natural language processing techniques to understand the what of what they're saying. And then my role is to understand the how. How are they saying it? And then we use those two layers of analysis to better understand people's perspectives, where they're coming from, what they're actually thinking about, or to identify what kinds of things they're prioritizing in these programs. So my primary role there is in this like emotion acoustics, but we're a very small company, about 12 people. And so anytime you have a small company like that, and I was one of the founding members, so we started out as a company of four. And anytime, anytime in that small of a role or small of a company, you end up wearing a whole host of hats, a lot of different things. So my linguistic expertise has not helped me just in the emotion acoustic space. So I see this one question about which areas of linguistics are most useful. And it's been almost all of them. Maybe not syntax quite so much, but I have used a lot of acoustics and phonetics, obviously, because of the emotion stuff. But simply in the sociolinguistic side, having to conduct field research was super helpful. So I contribute to our survey designs. I contribute to how we design the questions. Um, like I said, we ask open-ended questions. So the linguistic experience of thinking about and just being aware of how people deal with language and how people uh, treat interaction, communication, um, has been incredibly helpful. Helped to define principles of our survey designs so that we get rich, thick answers from people. We don't just ask uh, questions that replace a Likert scale, right? We're asking questions that open up grand possibilities of people responding. Um, and then additionally, we deal all over the world. Our work, we have projects on pretty much every continent, and have uh, worked in dozens of languages, maybe not dozens, but at least a dozen of languages at this point. We're still a fairly young company. We've been around for about 5 years. Um, but the need to work in all these different languages means I don't speak a ton of languages. So, and a lot of languages we work in, I don't speak. So needing to build translation and transcription principles, uh, needing to understand how to communicate with uh, native language speaker consultants to understand the context of the language that we're getting, and not just take things at face value, has been incredibly helpful and something I learned in linguistics. Um, and then, as I said, obviously the acoustics side of things has been a major part of it. I'm sure there's more. I guess computationally, given that this is
Computationally,
given this is, sorry, getting some feedback there. There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a feedback, yeah, but I think
Yeah.
everything is calm now.
No worries. So then, given that this is a computational seminar, I should mention the computational side of things as well. I am not a computational linguist per se, but I've had a lot of experience in my academic work and then in my industry work, doing programming in PROT, uh, which is an acoustic analysis software, and in R, um, very little Python, um, because I have other people that are far more skilled than me at that side of things, so I don't um, do the Python coding quite as much. And then um, and then a ton of Excel work, but all of that, it's less like knowing a particular language computationally. Um, the computational skills that I've used the most is this being able to jump between and being able to understand, how to underpin what I'm doing in that computational language with solid theory, and not just pumping out numbers that don't mean anything. And also that agility of switching between languages. Just last week, I had to take somebody else's stata program and completely rewrite it in R because I needed to run it more quickly on my machines. So being able to sort of do that kind of work was also beneficial, and something that I learned in my linguistics work. Take moving things around from program to program. So yeah, so I'll stop there for a moment and see that's sort of my context and an answer to that broader question of, where is my linguistic experience playing a role in my current work?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I saw the emotions and stuff like that. Very pragmatics in some sense, semantics, and phonetics in those senses. Yeah, so we have like 3 questions, and I will quickly run through them. The first one said, can you give us examples of your work, examples of a survey questions, and how you think it helps from the perspective of a linguist, and in what context?
Yeah, so examples of our work, I'll give you a couple. So um one the big current project we're doing is looking at how uh women in Africa, um looking at their digital lives. So how digital devices, phones, play a role in their lives, and how we can um, develop uh, develop theoretical models that inform design so that people can better design um, interventions or whatever to help women become more connected. And very broadly speaking. Another project we've done was looking at climate change impacts in northern Nigeria and how people responded, what their resiliency strategies were in handling climate change. We looked at another example might be looking at people's um, the sentiment of the population in Bangladesh in response to COVID-19 shutdowns. So as to an example of survey questions, I think that one actually is a really good example. So much of the type of work that we do traditionally has been done with very large quantitative surveys, so RCT kind of approaches. And so we embedded ourselves in this one survey that was happening where um, an enumerator it was conducting the survey, and they're asking sort of Likert scale type questions, right? On a scale of 1 to 5, how satisfied are you with this thing, right? That kind of thing. And we took those questions and designed them to be more open-ended. And when um, when we compared the results of those things, we found sort of dramatic differences. So for instance, so we had like the are you satisfied type question. Are you satisfied with the lockdowns, the way the Bangladesh government handled the lockdowns? And when we look at that data from just a Likert scale perspective, there was a significant lean towards a positive outlook. People seem to be happy about it. When we asked an open-ended question, when we asked, tell me about your feelings about the lockdowns, we found a significant portion of people who would give answers like, I think it was necessary and important, and it was a good thing to do, but we are out here dying like flies. And so when you have this like situation where people are expressing verbally an agreement, the enumerator checks off, yes, they agree that it's good, but they're missing all this rich data about it's good, but there's something else that's underlying there. There's something else battling that notion. So from a linguistics perspective, we found we looked at this sort of discursively at what the discourses were in people's responses, and found a lot of this sort of yes but type answers, and which dramatically changes the story of how people are actually feeling and what they feel needs to be done. Yeah, so I hope that's
Yeah,
an
that was,
answer
yeah,
there.
that's a very good answer. Thank you so much. Dikra, I hope you got your answer. So Nkechi is asking another question. I think there are two questions here. How do you navigate reaching out to tons of people with languages other than English and analyzing their responses from your surveys? And the second question is, what have been the challenges and how did you and the team surmount them?
Yeah. So this is a great question. And we get this often. So yeah, I am mostly monolingual, so I only speak English, and a lot of our team only works in English. So this is a good point. Like, okay, so how do you deal with working in all these different languages? And the short answer is we have consultants. We always work with somebody who speaks the language to make sure that the analyses we're getting make sense in the context of make sense to somebody who speaks that language. We will take samples of responses we're getting. We'll do some analyses. We'll consult with the native speaker, and we'll go back and forth this way just to make sure that we are and this is all in our piloting of these. We will make sure that we're getting the right questions, making sure that the questions are hitting the right context. We don't ever sort of wordsmith, so to speak, in English. We will give a notion, an idea of what we want to get out of a question to native speakers, and then we work very closely with those native speakers to develop that question in their language. So because they understand
Wow, that's
the
interesting.
context so much more, right? We don't understand all of the various all of the variables at play, all the cultural variables at play when you ask a question. And this is something that I harp on a lot. Every question, anytime you ask a question, you are calling to mind certain entailments that exist behind the question, right? And so we have to make sure that we are taking those into account and are aware of them, and that we're careful with how we interact with those. And I think that is just to answer the second question, I think that is one of the big challenges, is making sure that we're doing this carefully, thoughtfully, and the way and like I said, that's how we've primarily dealt with that, is to get native speakers. We have teams of translators. We do some when we have tools available to do speech to text and automatic translation, we will use those, but we don't take those at face value either. We'll use them and then we'll hire transcribers and translators to check them to make sure that things are appropriately handled.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've done this on lots of languages. Some languages are, large languages that have a lot of resources. Like, in India, we've worked in Hindi and Tamil and Telugu, and in India, we've worked in Africa, sorry, we've worked in Hausa and Swahili. But even in South Africa, we worked on sort of an emerging language, the Gauteng, the Gauteng dialect, and had that was a difficult one because there weren't there's no official documentation, no official resources. So we had to find people that spoke the Gauteng dialect, Gauteng language, um, and understood the context of the people that were speaking it, so they could help us better inform uh, our analyses.
Yeah. So thank you so very much. That was really helpful. It's given me a lot of ideas about how we do language documentation. We have a lot of difficulties trying to figure out the specific context of the native speakers. So if you are eliciting a data from English to a language, you want to like represent the context of this community, but then it's always difficult. So I got an idea there. Like you can explain what you want to do to a consultant or like somebody you're working with, and the person can put it in the context of the community. That's a very profound insight. So I have another question that says, thank you for being here. What are the major obstacles for extracting emotional/cultural meaning from the language and converting it into machine language, whatever that means? And what are the possible ways to address them?
So I'll clarify something here that the emotional analysis that I'm doing, I don't use a lot of machine learning yet. There are elements that I want to incorporate machine learning and sort of AI models for that emotional understanding. But as today, I have not used a lot of them. So I'll clarify that part of it. So converting it into machine language, I don't really do, but I'll answer this a little bit differently. Converting it into numbers, converting it into math language. So in so the underpinning theory here is that emotion is expressed, and at least partially, in the acoustics, in the way that we say our words. So the example that I always use when I explain my work, we're asking people what they think of programs and how they're behaving with programs. So the classic thing that I do is look at how somebody says, if we ask them how it is, and they say it's good or it's good, right? And so that difference is what I do, and that, as you can clearly hear, is situated in that emotion that's brought to those two expressions is situated in the acoustics. And so what we're looking for is ways to abstract elements of those acoustics. There's a lot. And as we know, speech is a continuous stream. So, in fact, the means by which we could extract those acoustics is infinite. But what I look at primarily is pitch and intensity. So this is the height of your voice and how loud you are. And what I want to speak to here is this this element of the cultural meaning. We know that emotion is not expressed the same in every language, in every culture, in every set of people, even internal, right? Certain people, certain people may just have a bit more of a flatter interaction. They just don't really change their voice a whole lot. But then some people are like really excitable and they just like the way they talk is just up and down. And, they just do this sort of thing the whole time they talk. So how do we deal with that kind of difference, even at the individual level, is to I take a bunch of extractions of acoustic information and then I normalize everything to an individual. So what I'm looking at is how do they behave with respect to their behavior in every other situation. So that's to sort of deal with the idiosyncratic stuff. To deal with larger sort of cultural things, right? So the way somebody is enculturated to express their emotion may vary from place to place. And so the way that I deal with that is I rely a bit on the literature and say, what does the literature point to as being as close to a universal as we can? It's not 100%. I don't ever presume that I'm like that everything this will always work. Again, I go back to consultants. I say, here's what I'm seeing. Please listen to these people and tell me what you're hearing. Then I say, do those things match? Okay, if they match, then I'm onto something. If they don't match, then I need to rethink. But so when I'm relying on pitch and intensity, I'm relying on how much does their voice waver, and modulate up and down, how loud do they get? These kinds of things in the literature seem to be quite universal with respect to how emotionally engaged people are. And so that's the frame that I use. I use emotional engagement or activation as my primary lens. And then I take that and say, what would that activation mean in this context for these people with respect to these questions? And that's where my analytical construct is built.
Yeah, that's very interesting actually. Very, very interesting. So yeah, there's some patterns because humans are not working haphazard. Like there is a system, there's a systematic way to some science that we do things. So definitely, even if they vary at the internal level, if you look at the typological patterns, that's sorry, that was the Abdul Fattah something.
That was the Abdul Fattah something.
I'm getting a feedback. Who is that? Oh my, sorry about that. It tends to happen with Zoom meetings. So yeah, we tend to have like typological patterns if you observe different things in humans tends to do because we are systematic. So now I have another question. What specific skills do linguists bring to industry that other professionals might not?
It's funny. There's a particular, I'll keep this one short. I think there is a particular skill, and this one has stuck with me since early in my grad school work. I remember talking to somebody in an alt-ac, an alternative to academics discussion. And she said this to me, and it rang true then, and it continues to ring true for me now. And I think the primary skill we bring is that we are used to dealing with the messiest data. Language Language is,
Exactly.
there is systematicity to it, but it is such a mess. It's buried in layers and layers and layers and layers, right? Um, and I feel like the perspective that linguistics gives you to recognize that layering and to not just words just don't exist in these chunks that just the meaning is just right there. There's like it's this layered thing that you have to unpeel. Um, that that ability, that perspective, I think is something that not a lot of professions, not a lot of training, other people trained in other fields get. Um, and then the layer on top of that is that because we are all humans, um, and because every human thing, everything that we do is a human thing that we do, language is always relevant. And so I think that's sort of the key is like finding communicating how is that relevant? Um, and then using that skill of looking at super messy data. Um, and that's a transferable skill, right? Doesn't have to be language, but you know how to deal with messy data. Yeah.
So that's resonates a lot with me about the messy data. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It has helped me too in different systems where I'm trying to look for. Somebody said to me like, I want to train a machine. We want our machine to. We assume our machine has learned, so we want to get a data that would instruct it to show that it has not learned. So they just put up a lot of data, and I was wondering what kind of data are these? And I have to look through and say, that, okay, some are morphologically driven. I look at the pattern. I can extract this morpheme and we can move that way. And then this is like structural, it's like syntactic in some sense, and this one is more like meaning driven. So, and then I was able to notice apart this data, and it was finance and not only language. So yeah, you are absolutely right about the messy data. I'll keep that too in my heart and run with it and see how far it will take me. Yeah, all right. So another question from Saad. Is the climate change project out, and how do you collect your data for this project?
I will reply to that with a link. I don't know I'm assuming everybody can see my reply.
Yeah, yeah.
If not, so there's a link to our website that has the various decks that we put out and a blog regarding that project.
Okay. Thank you.
Data collection was done the same way we do other data collection, which is surveys, phone surveys.
Right. So yeah, another one here. Thank you. I don't know. Thank you for sharing your experiences. How can I reach out to you? Because my current experience is related to this dissertation. Thanks.
I will put my email and reply to that.
Right.
And this goes for anybody. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
I try to be responsive, but as I
not
said,
always.
we're also a small company, and so I'm often very busy. So forgive me if I take a little while to get back, but I do always eventually get back.
Yeah, so somebody here, Abul, can you please shed more light on the method and tools used in quantitative data analysis, e.g., in the case of Bangladesh study?
So let's see. I'm not entirely sure what exactly you're asking about, but let's see, the quantitative data analysis.
I think it should be related to the acoustic studies, how you get the numbers, which is like you can use Pratt to annotate and then extract with the script and put it in your spreadsheet and plot in R. I don't think it's more than that. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, things are Yep, I extract various measures, roughly 70 some measures of the acoustic signal, and then build up
Oh,
various.
yeah, I think he's saying it's qualitative data.
The qualitative data.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the qualitative data, so like I said, this is a layered process. We use natural language processing to do sort of roughly two. I'll bin it into two approaches. It's not always so straightforward, but we have what we'd call like topic classification. So we're looking at identifying and classifying topics. So it's the what people are saying. What kinds of things are they talking about? And this can be somewhat open-ended and fairly broad. And not always entirely useful. Sometimes it is, but sometimes what people are responding with, the topic that comes out of it might not be immediately, I shouldn't say not useful, it's just not immediately transparent. So why? So we have to group and understand what people are saying within the context of within their context, but then also within the scope of what our client is looking for, right? If we see that a lot of topics are coming up that are outside the scope of what the client is interested in, so for instance, in the Bangladeshi study, if we saw a bunch of responses that weren't about the shutdown, we might so for instance, I can give a for instance there. If we saw a bunch of people talking about food in response to how do you feel about the COVID-19 shutdown, and the topics that are coming up is people talking about food, we have to understand that in the context and the scope of the question, right? So we would then analyze that and say, okay, what are they talking about when they're talking about food? Are they talking about food shortages? And particularly talking about starvation. So let's raise that up. Another example that might be a little bit obvious. Another example would be in another study we were asking workers at a textiles plant about their experiences. And the questions were about how this job had helped them. And then we saw a whole bunch of disparate answers about various things that didn't seem to coalesce into a clear set of notions. And then noticed that a lot of those were complaints that were related to that ended up being, when we did some more digging, ended up being related to payment issues, like them not being paid properly. So sometimes the qualitative, we're often looking in the scope of what the client is interested in. So we're asking of the data, we're asking, what do people say with respect to these sets of notions? But because we ask open-ended questions, we're always open to looking outside of that a little bit. And if we notice things that start to coalesce, then we say, this must be important to these people. Then we can raise it to the client. And we can say, hey, here's something that matters, even though it wasn't something you were interested in at the start.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I hope that answers the qualitative
Yeah,
questions.
that's interesting, actually. That's interesting. So I have another question that says, can you give an example of such a consultant company who represents some minor language? I don't know what consultant company means.
Sorry, I didn't catch that one.
Can you give an example of such a consultant company who represents some minor language? I'm thinking that maybe there is a consultant, like maybe you have like a language consultant, but I think from linguistic point of view, we don't contract a company, we contract people. Like we work with native speakers. So
Yep.
is that the same process?
Yeah, as far as I know, we've never contracted a consultant company per se, but usually individuals through various contexts. Yeah, and I should clarify too that like our company is global. We're 12 people, but we are in I'm in the US, my CEO is in the US, but then we have our communications directors in Brazil. We have several data folks in India. We have project managers in Kenya and Ghana and Nigeria. And we partner with uh, uh, other companies when we need to. So we have partner companies in South Africa and Senegal. Yeah, so we're sort of all around. So through those contacts, we find individuals who both recruit participants, and we find individuals who can recruit. We find individuals who can help us with translation. We find individuals who can help us with consulting on cultural things. So yeah, we search around. We find our people. Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. Do you hire international freelancer linguists?
Do we hire freelance linguists?
Yes, like international freelancer linguists.
We haven't yet. I have only just started sort of an internship program here. And by just started, I mean I've only had one intern. And I'm looking to get another one this fall through a local university. So currently I am the only linguist at Decodis. And we have not hired linguists per se. That doesn't mean we won't. Yeah, it sort of depends on projects and depends on where things go.
Yeah. I think one last question. I don't know. I responded to the person whether they've checked the attached link to the climate study on Arosa, but the question is maybe you have another answer to it. For the climate change project, please, how do you disseminate these surveys, given that the project is focused on Africa, northern Nigeria to be precise?
Yeah, so we partnered with a recruitment company who operates in and is used to operating in northern Nigeria. And the way we disseminate our survey is we have people go out into the field, find people who are interested in taking the survey, uh, give them a phone if they don't have a phone. And then they're opting into receiving the survey, and then we push calls out. And so all of that usually will take a couple weeks, and then within that couple weeks, then we can, but after that, we can push out calls and get surveys done quite quickly. So that's how we scale. So we've often done, surveys of 100, 200 participants, but we have two large surveys right now where we have about 1,000 participants in 1,000 in Kenya, 1,000 in Nigeria, northern Nigeria, and Senegal. So we have, so the dissemination of the survey itself is done by via phone, but how we get people to receive that call and actually take the survey is we have recruiters go out into the field and recruit them to the survey.
Yeah, so I think I would just chip in something. Maybe there are freelancers here, and it's difficult the way being a Nigerian, it's difficult for people to contract a freelancer, like just a freelancer. I think I have been meaning I think I want to write some things on that to push out to the community to explain how freelancing actually works. So if you get a gig that is like a freelance gig, it's mostly network. And by network, I mean, if you don't know the person and you are hired, it means that they've got the job. They're just giving you as a third party. That happens sometimes. So if you are a freelancer at all and you are thinking like, where has been the survey? I have not answered any survey. They're not going to be pushing the survey to you as an individual. Any project you do and then you are hired, most of the time, not all the time, like 90 something percent of the time is a third party work. So I think I've explained to that how I've mentioned it in the community page and how freelancing work and how you should be very careful with the way you call yourself a freelancer. So I think I will just tip in that so it's not gonna fly in around like because for someone that wants quality work, they want to understand, they want the quality of the work they want to get. So even if you are a native speaker of Swahili or like Hausa, whatever thing, or Bangladesh, whatever thing you see around, it might not be that you'll be recruited because there is a system to how, as Derry was explaining, there's a system to how they recruit. They just go there and just handpick anybody because they are Hausa or Swahili or Bangladesh native speaker. Yeah, so that's really it. I don't have any other question here. So I would just think that maybe people don't have any other question. So yeah, for someone, I would ask you a question. So imagine someone that just a freshman, someone that just graduated, like no PhD, no masters. You are the PhD, right? Or at least you're on the path of a PhD. Like a freshman,
Yes,
a freshman who knows, like he's just taking generative syntax, generative phonology, all this intro to linguistics and the likes. Do you think that there will be a way for them to, of course, they've done one or two field work, but they would have to write their term, their long essay, their thesis, their long graduate thesis. There, it might be the case that they've collected data for their project. For someone that have that minute, like as infin that small experience, do you think there is a place for them in this kind of role that you serve, or do I have to have like a PhD or like a PhD in view to do that? I am just curious, actually.
I I guess to do what, I guess, is what my question would be. So like to do what I do,
Mm.
I think a master's would be good. Um I think the PhD gave me a lot of perspective and a lot of experience that I didn't have by the time I had a master's. So I think my practice would be very different if I was just a master's student, if I had only had a master's. That said, I almost didn't finish my PhD. I only just completed it and graduated this year. So, and I've been at this company for 5 years. So, no, you don't need a completed PhD in order to do what I had. That said, being on that track gave me perspective and gave me experience that I
Sure.
use
Sure.
that I use now.
Sure.
So no, I don't think it's necessary. I often tell people not to do a PhD. Uh, I think overall, I think you're better bang for your buck is to do a master's. But yeah, I think if you're just starting out like a freshman undergrad, I think you need a lot more experience. But if you're working, if you're talking about like you're just starting out in graduate school, um, I think there's places to find that experience. And I also am, you know, the degree is nice, right? The letters behind and in front of your name is nice. But the stuff that really matters, the stuff that actually drives the job and proves that you're able to do the job is the experience, right?
Absolutely.
It's the work.
Absolutely.
So, the letters and the piece of paper that says, "Hey, I've done this study." It's nice, and it's a short way to communicate to people that you have that experience, but it itself is not it in and of itself is not what I'd say is required. Like there are many PhDs that I don't think would do my job, or would do a similar job, because I think that the where their focus is different.
Yeah.
I was taught by a historical linguist, and but he was sort of a sociolinguistically aligned. But many of his students I was friends with, and their perspective is just different, right? Their perspective on what they're trying to accomplish with their research isn't to try to understand the minds of people, right? It's trying to understand how how a particular language has changed over the course of time. And I think that is not as useful as in my particular role. Not that it's not useful in other roles. Like I said, if you're a linguist, you're dealing with messy data, period. Right? So it's absolutely useful in many other roles. Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of babbling at this point, but I think some education is super important. Certainly need to get some under your belt, if not for anything other than just the communication aspect, but the experience. So if you can find consulting gigs, 100% do those, because that will show, you'll show that you can do the work. If
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
find that kind of work, that's super useful. And yeah, and then hopefully then the letters will just come after that.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there is just one thing people are not really thinking about, and I will quickly chip that in, is that the degrees are excellent. They are good. They are papers. They are there. And I tell you for a fact, if you don't pick anything, nobody's gonna look at that when they have jobs. Nah. I mean we had some time in this summer when I mean it's as if we've met to discuss this there. It's as if we've met to actually talked about it. When I heard you saying that, I knew that right on spot. Like we have talked about, I've explained to them, like it's good, just have it, keep it somewhere. Like it's good to have it. You can just have it. But I tell you, in the working world, nobody cares. Like I have been in roles I've been in roles as an engineer. I read linguistics. It's an engineer. My tag is engineering, and I was leading the engineering team. I've been in a role. I was like a geologist. We're digging in river. We're using that to measure how height and everything is happening in the water and everything like that, and the sound. I personally have occupied a geology, and they didn't care. They didn't ask me, did you read linguistics or did you read like geology? They knew I have done something like that. I've been doing these things in this area. They knew I understood the area more than them, that they needed my expertise. So you see,
Mm,
it's go for that. Like alongside those papers, go for that. So very,
yeah.
very important advice, Derry. Very, very extremely important. Like I wish I knew. Like I wish I knew. But I didn't know. I thought it was
Yeah.
first class. First class. Anyway, so
Uh, if I could just add to that real quick.
mhm.
Um, the geology thing. You see this a lot where people make connections across the fields, right? Uh, the ability to analogize, uh, I think is one of the most uh, critical things. Just to speak back to the very beginning, another element of my training that I use a lot is being able to engage in any sort of conceptual discussion very quickly, and being able to contribute meaningfully by tying what I know here and here and here to something new, right? And that finding analogic ties between concepts and ideas. Um, yeah, sorry, you're just speaking about geology and
Yeah,
using your experience even in
yeah,
something that, like
yeah,
geology,
yeah.
just made me think of that. Anyway,
Yeah, so yeah, I
I'll let that
was
go there.
I was basically documenting the language in that culture, and they have this river and they have this water body, how it was reflected in their language and how they are expressed. So the geologists want to understand like how did they express these things in their languages, and because
Mm,
they want to understand that now they will use that to think about how they are seeing the water. Are they seeing it as dangerous? Are they seeing it as I mean, do you see that as part of them? And I mean, a lot of things that was going on. I was really shocked when I saw what you were doing
mm,
with just linguistics experience. It was really interesting. So as we try to round off, I have like, I think maybe two questions. Are you extending the internship opportunity to people not residing in the States?
mm. Currently no. Um, because currently it's tied to a contact I have at the University of Pittsburgh, so a local university, who he has like a um internship program and that I'm trying to kind of be involved in. Uh, that said, a year from now, 6 months from now, I don't know. I don't know how things will change, how things will evolve. Um, Again, depending on the growth of the company and depending on our need, uh, opportunities pop up in various occasions. So I'll harken back to what you said earlier. Um, it's networking. So feel free to reach out to me, you know, remind me, hey, I saw your talk at the Linguistic Island uh summer camp or summer classes. introduce yourself, connect with me. I'm always happy to connect with people.
True.
We don't get anywhere without out networking. I got this job on a fluke. My wife applied to my position. Sorry, my wife applied to my colleague's position, and then my CEO said, "Linguistics, that's interesting. Tell me more about it." And then my wife talked to her about it, and my wife said, "Actually, you don't need me. You need a sound person. Talk to my husband." So it's like, obviously your spouse is as close of a network as you can get. But other jobs I've had have also been this sort of circumstantial, oh, I happen to know somebody, and happen to connect with them here or there. So yeah, I don't. So that's the long answer to no, I'm not currently extending the internship beyond not even the US, beyond the local university. But I always have an eye towards, well, what if Decodis grows much more, right? And if I need more people, we do a lot of work in Africa. I know a lot of people here are linguists in Africa. So yeah, the person I am connecting to in the university has a very pragmatic way of looking at things. Like it is wonderful to connect with people. We all obviously need things, right? And so every interaction is an opportunity for us to not maliciously but beneficially help each other gain what we need. Help each other out one way or the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of that to say, please reach out to me. Please feel free to connect with me. Find me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah. The person you're talking about, I'll actually be hanging. I was hoping we were able to bring him here to actually explain some things to us. So I hope that soon I'll be able to,
Were you able to connect with them?
Yeah, I did. I sent a message. I think he's extremely busy. I can
Yes.
just guess. Yeah. So I hope soon we'll connect into his internship program. I have really high hopes that I will do a lot of wonders with this internship program. It's part of the reason Linguist Island is gonna be there. I hope soon, very, very soon, will connect with him. And I've seen his internship program. It's really fabulous. I want to my aim is to, after we train people in the summer school and he has given me some things he needs, I can give to people, train them, and hand them over to him and connect us around. So hopefully that would happen in the next summer school if we have it. All right, so we are running out of time. I don't want to keep Derry because he's a very busy person. So I will ask your next question. Would you please point out those places, the ones you were referring to? I don't know what.
I'm sorry, I lost track of that one.
Yes. Do you work with people from non-linguistics background but have some experience in that regard?
Yeah. So my colleague that does most of the natural language processing stuff, he's our director, our director of data. I'm not remembering his official title at the moment. Another founding member of Decodis. He started his work in call center analysis. Not a linguist by training. His degree is in business, but he has worked now many years on language data, so he has a good handle on understanding some principles. Sometimes we still have discussions about a little bit deeper stuff, but yeah, it's there.
Yeah. Thank you so very much for that. Yeah. So I think I don't know whether we still have any questions before we close the summer school. Like officially, we'll do that immediately after this meeting. So I want you to appreciate Derry for carving out time to give us practical understanding of things that he does, specifically as a linguist at Decodis, and how at least we can have a sense of, I am learning linguistics. I've seen someone who gave me this idea. I can understand what he's trying to do. I can connect because I am a linguist. I can see what I could do. I should begin to think outside and in this way and in this manner. That is really, really helpful and insightful. Thank you so very much for coming around. We are really grateful for having you. So
Yeah, thank you so much.
yeah, we'll be ending the meeting here. Then
Thank
we'll
you so
we'll
much.
talk some other time. Yeah. So everybody should wait. We have to end the the summer school, but Derry would have to leave because he's our guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. And thank you for all the questions.
Yeah.
Really good questions.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, we'll see
Derry.
you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.